You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
The options market can be a confusing place. Sorting through the daily avalanche of data, alerts, updates, articles, and analysis to find the most important information is an overwhelming prospect. But now you have help. Welcome to the Options News Rundown, the only program that breaks through the noise to bring you the most important news and information from the world of options. Every day, we bring you the top 5 option stories curated by the options experts at theoptionsinsider.com, the premier source for options information. The Options News Rundown is brought to you by Market Taker Mentoring, the leader in options trading education. Get trader education, daily trade ideas, and more with a free 1-week trial of Market Taker Mentoring's Live Advantage Group coaching class by visiting markettaker.com/insider. And now it's time to break through the noise. It's time for your Options News Rundown.
Good morning. Today is Friday, June 14th. 2019. This is your Options News Rundown. I'm Dan Passarelli. Our first story of the day is from investing.com. It's the top 5 things to know in the market on Friday. First thing to know is Broadcom tumbles as U.S.-China trade dispute causes chip demand slowdown. Shares in Broadcom tumbled around 9% in pre-market trade Friday as the company forecast a slowdown in demand for chips, blaming the trade dispute between the U.S. and China, as well as the export ban on Huawei. It is clear that the U.S.-China trade conflict, including the Huawei export ban, is creating economic and political uncertainty and reducing visibility, Chief Executive Officer Hock Tan said in a conference call with analysts. The warning caused waves across the sector, dragging down European chip makers such as Infineon, ASML, and ST Microelectronics during their regular session, while other U.S. rivals like Qualcomm, Texas Instruments, and Skyworks also fell in pre-market trade. The second thing to know is China industrial output hits a 17-year low amid the trade conflict. China's industrial output growth unexpectedly slowed to its lowest rate in over 17 years in May, the latest sign of weakening demand in the world's second largest economy as the U.S. ramps up trade pressure. Although hopes remain that some type of deal could be reached at an expected meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese Premier Xi Jinping at the G20 summit in 2 weeks, both sides show little sign of backing down. China said on Friday it was raising anti-dumping duties on certain alloy steel seamless tubes and pipes used at utilities and imported from the United States and the European Union. Oil prices correct after tanker attack surge as EIA increases output forecast. Oil prices dropped on Friday after suspected attacks on tankers in the Gulf of Oman sent crude soaring a day earlier. The U.S. government showed a video of the attacks and laid blame on Iran, though Tehran denied involvement. G20 ministers plan to hold a meeting to discuss the attacks ahead of their summit at the end of the month. Also putting downward pressure on oil, the International Energy Agency said its monthly report that non-OPEC production was expected to surge 2.3 million barrels per day in 2020, while OPEC members sit on 3.2 million barrels per day of spare capacity. The fourth thing to know today is retail sales and consumer sentiment data are ahead. On Friday's economic calendar, market focus will be on the state of the American consumer. The Commerce Department will release retail sales for May at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. That's out. While the University of Michigan will publish its preliminary data on consumer sentiment for June at 10 a.m. Eastern. Although the Fed is not expected to make any changes to interest rates at the June 18-19 policy meeting, weak numbers would support market conviction that the U.S. Central Bank could begin cutting rates as early as July. Fed Fund futures price in a probability at 88%. The fifth thing to know today is U.S. futures dip on China worries, and Chewy rounds off a strong week for IPOs. The double whammy of weak Chinese industrial production and Broadcom's warning sent U.S. futures lower on Friday, with particular pressure on the tech sector. Outside of trade developments and economic data, traders pay attention to the stock market debut of PetSmart's Chewy, which priced its IPO above the high end of the marketing range at $22 a share. It's been a strong week for IPOs despite the steady drumbeat of negative news. Cybersecurity company CrowdStrike has doubled since its debut on Wednesday, while gig economy company Fiverr rose 90% Thursday on its debut. Our second story today is from investing.com. U.S. farmers experimenting with hemp as China trade war drags on. A growing number of U.S. farmers, battered by low grain prices and the threat of a prolonged trade war with China, are seeking salvation in a plant that until recently was illegal, hemp. A close cousin of cannabis plants that produce marijuana, hemp is used in products ranging from foods, building materials, and cannabidiol or CBD oil, which is being touted as a treatment for everything from sleeplessness to acne to heart disease. Interest in hemp picked up with the passage of the 2018 Farm Bill in December, which removed hemp from the Federal Drug Enforcement Administration's list of controlled substances and put it under the oversight of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA. Unlike marijuana, industrial hemp doesn't contain enough of the psychoactive chemical THC to give users a high. The new rules call for the USDA to award hemp planting licenses to farmers, but the agency has not yet regulated the process, meaning individual states are still issuing licenses. Industrial hemp plantings this year could double from the 78,176 acres seeded in 2018, said Eric Steenstra, president of advocacy group Vote Hemp. In 2017, 25,713 acres were planted on pilot programs authorized under the 2014 Farm Bill. The U.S. hemp market is growing along with supply. U.S. sales of hemp reached $1.1 billion in 2018 and are projected to reach $1.9 billion by 2022, according to Vote Hemp and the Hemp Business Journal, a trade publication. The profit potential is high. A good yield of food-grade hemp, for instance, can net farmers about $750 per acre, said Ken Anderson, founder of Prescott, Wisconsin-based hemp processor Legacy Hemp. Hemp seeds can be baked into bread or sprinkled into cereal or salads. Our final story of the day is from NASDAQ.com. Gold hits a 14-month high on growth woes and Middle East tensions. Gold hits its highest since April last year on Friday as intensifying political concerns in the Middle East and weak economic data from China and the United States pushed it above the 1350 level. Spot gold was up 1% to $1,355 per ounce at 10:22 Greenwich Mean Time, after hitting its highest since April last year at $1,358.04 earlier in the session. In people's minds, there's a sense of a deeply darkening macroeconomic backdrop, in particular the likelihood that the U.S. will drop interest rates quite soon, said Ross Norman, chief executive at bullion dealer Sharps Pixley. Investors are getting ahead of the curve by buying gold in expectation that the U.S. Federal Reserve will have to reverse its previous tightening policy, by extension pressuring the dollar and lifting gold, Norman said. China's industrial output growth slowed to a more than 17-year low of 5% in May, the latest sign of weakening demand in the world's second-largest economy, as the U.S. ramped up trade pressure. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is news you can use for today, Friday, June 14th, 2019, your Options News Rundown. I'm Dan Passarelli. Trade smart and have a fantastic weekend, and happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there.
The Options News Rundown is brought to you by Market Taker Mentoring, the leader in options trading education. Get trader education, daily trade ideas, and more with a free 1-week trial of Market Taker Mentoring's Live Advantage Group coaching class by visiting markettaker.com/insider.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.